Okay, we're going to finish this survey. This is not by any means in depth or in detail. I have no reason to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, and speak louder than the other voices that have already done the work on this. Okay, so I was just talking about the importance of religion to identity within the area. Okay, and let's go Russian worlds. So Russkiy Mir. Pax Ruska, in parallel to Pax Roma as a counterweight to Pax Americana and Pax Britannica. So let's go over, again, this is just Wikipedia. It's only this is only just a small snapshot, okay? Russia's President Putin visited the Arkham site in the Sintasha culture in 2005, meeting in person with the chief archaeologist Gennady Zenadovich. The visit received much attention from Russian media. They presented Arkham as the homeland of the majority of contemporary people in Asia and partly Europe. Nationalists called Arkham the city of Russian glory and most ancient Slavic Aryan town. Zenonovich reportedly presented Arkham to the president as a possible national idea of Russia, a new idea of civilization which Viktor Chernoman calls the Russian idea. Eventually, the idea of the Russian world was adopted by Russian administration, and Putin decreed the establishment of the government-sponsored Russkiy Mir Foundation in 2007. A number of observers considered the promotion of the Russian world concept as an element of the revisionist idea of the restoration of Russia or its influence back to the borders of the Soviet Union and the Russian Empire. Now, I don't particularly trust Ukrainians or Romanians, because in the past they've been communist flip-floppers, how Italy was a fascist flip-flopper. They'll do whatever is advantageous to them. That's just my opinion. Okay, don't come after me for my opinion. That could change in the future after further, I don't know, further healing, truth, and reconciliation. I don't know, whatever propaganda you want to put out there. That's all about being global. Let's be global. Other observers describe the concept as an instrument for projecting Russian soft power, so influence. In Ukraine, the promotion of the Russian world became, as early as 2018, strongly associated with the Russo-Ukrainian War. According to the assistant editor Pavel Tikhomorov of Russenka Linya, the Russian world for politicized Ukrainians, whose number constantly increases, nowadays is simply neo-Sovietism, masked by new names. He reconciled that with the conflation of the Russian world and the Soviet Union within Russian society itself. The Financial Times described Russian world as Putin's creation that fuses respect for Russian Tsarists' Orthodox past with a reverence for the Soviet defeat of fascism in the Second World War. This is epitomized in the main cathedral of the Russian Armed Forces, 40 miles west of Moscow, opened in 2020. It's a very nice building. Holy shit. I like the green. I like the green. It's a good motif. That's a powerful image. It's a truly powerful image. That's a serious amount of resources to make this, and the skill of everyone involved. And a lot of this cast copper and brass. So the prior, if you think about it, and it's like, so it's like this. The priorities, the logic is the order of their priorities is very different. In that, this is why their thoughts and beliefs about what life is in conflict with Western idealisms, especially with all the distractions and subterfuge, quite frankly, that happens within North America. Not that it doesn't happen over there, but it's far easier to understand the subterfuge and the subversion of every Western organized society. Now, the one thing that I wanna end on here. That was just my conservative writing, asking if we're going to support them and put a sign on our lawn. Anyways, it's absurd. It's absurd. I'm trying to put this together and talk about the serious part of the war, which the bad parts. And I've witnessed this on Instagram where there was a military contractor who was flaunting his wealth and narcissism and frankly insults by his actions, not only to the people that he was supporting, but he was living out of country, and he was acting rather immature. And the image that he gave off was not very good, not trustworthy, not something that I would want from a military contractor. Because contracting and then the war profiteering is what opens up avenues, especially as the changing attitudes from say communism back to a more open economy instead of a centrally planned economy. Especially after the context of the Russian oligarchs that in the right place and time at the end at the fall of the Soviet Union, and then all the power struggles that happened within that. This is why Putin has a fifth term, is because he's one of the few people that actually keep the whole thing together. That's by my summarization, but I'm not going to know all this stuff for real until I'm there, and just like everything else, right? It's not doubting Peter, I'm not in saying that I need to see the stigmata to believe. I need to see the wounds in order to believe. I don't need that. Yeah, and this is this okay. So this is the UN Commission concludes that war crimes have been committed in the Ukraine, but by both sides. By both sides. It's not just. It's not. The Russians. They started targeting, as I said before in another video. They started targeting civilian installations and infrastructure because the Ukrainian army was using these civilian networks to communicate. So anything that is then used for military purposes becomes a military target. And then when it comes down to it, even if they are civilian, in a war, no one is innocent. No one is innocent in war. Okay, so Geneva, 23rd of September. Based on its investigations into events in the regions of Kiev, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, and Sumy, the Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine has concluded that war crimes have been committed in the Ukraine. The Commission has documented violations such as the illegal use of explosive weapons, indiscriminate attacks, violation of personal integrity, including executions, torture, and ill treatment, and sexual and gender-based violence. It has also found that the rights of children have also been violated. On a visit to the Ukraine in June 2022, the Commission observed firsthand the damage that explosive weapons with wide area effects cause to residential buildings and infrastructure in populated areas. Including schools and hospitals. A number of the attacks that the Commission investigated were carried out without distinguishing between civilians and combatants. We were struck by the large number of executions in the area that we visited, Eric Moles, chair of the Commission, said. We are concerned about the suffering of the international armed conflict in Ukraine has imposed on the civilian population. He added that the Commission is currently investigating executions in 16 towns and settlements and has received credible allegations regarding many more such cases. Common elements in these crimes include the prior detention of the victims and visible signs of execution, such as hand tied behind backs, gunshot wounds to the head, and slit throats. Witnesses provided the Commission with consistent accounts of ill treatment and torture carried out during the unlawful confinement. Some of the victims have reported that after initial detention by Russian forces in the Ukraine, they were transferred to the Russian Federation and held for weeks in detention centers, where they subjected to torture and other forms of ill treatment. The investigation into sexual and gender-based violence has shown that some Russian Federation soldiers committed such crimes. The age of victims of sexual and gender-based violence ranged from 4 to 82 years old. The Commission has also found that children were exposed to repeated explosions, violations, forced displacement, and separated from family members, as well as other violations. That's war for you. In the 4 areas where the investigations were conducted, Kiev, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, and Sumy, the Commission processed 2 incidents of ill treatment against Russian Federation soldiers by Ukrainian forces. While few in number, such cases continue to be the subject of the Commission's attention. The Commission visited 27 towns and settlements and has interviewed more than 150 victims and witnesses. Its investigators inspected sites of destruction, graves, places of detention and torture, as well as weapon remnants, and consulted a large number of documents and reports. In the course of its investigation, the Commission met with government authorities, international organizations, civil society, and other relevant stakeholders. So the next one is the link of the oral statement, 23rd September 2022. Again, this is a civil war. It's a civil war. It is not, this is they're saying they're committing crimes, and I'm not going to doubt the victim statements, but there is a political aspect. And then okay, next one I'm looking at is the Nord Stream, which goes through the no, it doesn't go through. It goes through the Gulf of Finland into Germany. And then I'm looking at the next thing that I have to think about. I'm looking at is a call to ban books here in Canada. This was posted February 21st from the CBC. Most Canadians stand with authors, stand with a child's right to read, said a writer whose book was published. And this is about a Syrian refugee, a gay Syrian refugee. And the truth is that it shouldn't be anywhere near children. We shouldn't be teaching this. And the thing is this is where it becomes economic, because of religious support and subversion, if not historical rivalries between religions. Because of the schism, because of 1054. But not only that, but the support and the propagation of Zionism. Because there's no one there. I've said it before. There's no one worse to women than other women, and there's no one worse to men than women. So I don't blame Putin for having this romantic notion, and of course his other supporters. I don't blame them for wanting and desiring independence from the rest of the world, and having the right to trade with who it wants to. I want the same thing for Canada personally, but the competition, to some people, they don't want to have to deal with the facts of life, in that materialism and Western decadence is not sustainable, and neither is globalism, neither is any kind of global socialism or government. I would say it's better to just live and let live. This is why we have borders. This is why we have police forces. This is why we have militaries. It is because there's some people won't identify with this, but there is true power in service. Right? We are in service to God. We are in service to other people, and we are in service to idealisms. And none of this happens without economy and without the ability to trade. And again, this has to do with financial warfare, extraordinary warfare. These ideas and these connotations, the conceptions, they don't change, right? It's always the same factors that drive us to conflict. And in all cases, it's I understand the motivation. There's another motivation, okay, instead of just a modern irredentism. In that I'm going to talk about before I get you say like the Ukrainian One, or say uranium. Which is not, it is not a theory. April 23rd. This is from the New York Times. Cash flowed to Clinton Foundation amid Russian uranium deal. There's obviously, so this is, from Forbes. So this is all political, decentralized political games. And there's money to be made off of the backs of people, of other people, especially the most vulnerable. And I've said before within the history of propaganda that gay people have a disability. They're disabled. Not to raise them to the status that we worship disabled people here in North America. We see them as especially with the with cultural Marxist ideas, that they are the most virtuous of us. But they're not. They're just people, and they have bigger challenges. They have more challenges than the rest of us. And here's another part, is that we as Western society don't have a right, and we don't have a moral imperative to intervene on this, just because of attitudes towards culture, religion, and sexual orientation or identity. It's like the prime directive: don't interfere with other civilizations. And the problem, the issues are of Ukrainian identity and a bit of an inferiority complex, in my opinion. Ukraine is like this teenage state, rebelling and making lots of noise and destroying property, in order to assert its independent identity from its parent. But it's funny. It's like this Futurama thing in which you're screwing your own great grandfather. So you're having sex with your own grandmother. It's dicey. Again, the money and the fear of reprisal, of some sort of revenge, or they won't be there next time when we need their help, sort of thing. But it isn't like that. This is like a fallacy of sunken cost, in that it's better to let them sort it out, especially within a civil war. Let them sort it out. Hands off. And I noticed that through the Canadian Forces social media, that the Western NATO countries are preparing and showing force in surrounding countries like Estonia, Romania, Latvia, these former Soviet states, to show the boundaries, right? But it just makes me think: who's a true Ukrainian? Who's a true Russian? Can you answer that question? I'm not really sure. But the factors that which I'm displaying here illustrate okay, so recap here before I end this. Religious attitudes and associations, long-term grudge matches, which were friendly at first and now they're not. It's the usual things. The culture in humanity is not that hard to figure out. Then acceptance and allowance of gay marriage even. No, again, me, I don't support that stuff. I want to hold that at arm's length. You can go do that over there. There's a lot of there's always been conflict between religious practice and trying to bring these people to God, and then queer elitism, which then therein is supported by, I dare say, religious elitism, and I'm not gonna name as to whom, and attitudes of belief, and then economy, because of who we want to associate with, not only as people but as countries. Who are we compatible, sort of thing, right? And that's how stupid we can be. So instead of going full nuclear, just like a chess game, if you want to keep most of your pieces, and you know that your opponent is more skilled, more educated, and has more resources, has more determination, more character, more willpower, excuse me, then quite frankly, it's a waste of time to waste other people's time. It's a waste of time to waste other people's time. And it's better, in some cases, to just surrender, resign. Let these statesmen come and do the work so that you can be a comedian again. Because again, we rise to the position of our incompetence. And then we get to a place where we're surrounded by yes men in this position of power. And no one really wants to tell you what's going on. Everyone else trying to tell you what to do or what is best. Or they even try to put you in the psych ward because you're trying to be independent. And trying to make your own money, that sort of thing. That's all I'm going to say on this. Thank you for watching the Ukrainian special. I'll be keeping an eye on this. I may do some updates. But right now, the chessboard has been set. Here it is. The basic reasons for this conflict are resources and religious identity. So, I'm not really one that wants to get caught in the crossfire of this, and I don't like how much we as Canadians are supporting because of the amount of problems that we have here in the here and now within Canada in 2024. It's just unignorable. The world is completely burnt out on conflicts and of war profiteering. You know, because when people get angry and they get burnt out, they start committing war crimes because they want immediate catharsis and revenge. But that's one of the things that you may live to regret later in life. That's all. Anyways, yeah, again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little survey that I've done. And we'll just keep on going with this, with HLP, History Propaganda. See ya.